I was asked, what would I say to my family? Um, and I'm pretty sure that what the question meant was, basically tell them off. Um, and I thought about it, and I think that um, it's a valid discussion to talk about how to talk about a diagnosis with your family or people who might have contributed to it. In my case, I have explained what avoidance is to both my parents, um, and I have to interact with them. My father has Alzheimer's. My mother is very ill, and she can't really take care of herself. She needs, somebody to do her grocery shopping, etc. And I'm stuck around them in a nutshell. Now, I mean, I could be horrible and leave them on their own, but yeah, I couldn't do that. I would die of the guilt, and that's just how it is. When I talked to them, what I'd said was, I explained what avoidance was. I gave them like the DSM guidelines. Um, my mother completely, totally denied and ignored it and said that's not possible and blah blah blah. Classic, because of course she doesn't want to have her, she doesn't want to be implicated in it in a nutshell. But then, so she ignored what I said in my description of it. My father, but until she went to her own therapist, who completely validated what I'd said and explained how it could have happened, etc. And then my mother went on this self-diagnosing spree, and she basically said that everybody that she's ever met in her life has avoidance, except of course herself. There's nothing wrong with her. And that lasted, I don't know how long, a little while, 2 months, and then she went back to completely ignoring it and refusing to acknowledge it, and basically picking on me for my avoidant behaviors. Yeah. My father, I told him once, again, he has Alzheimer's, so he doesn't really remember much, but he was extremely receptive to it and nice about it. I was astounded. He felt really bad for me. But again, it didn't last. He also did not see that he had anything to do with it, even though, because he didn't come right out and say, hey, you caused this. I've had people tell both of my parents, hey, you caused her to be like that. And they are both like, good, because that means she's sticking around taking care of us. Because I also have a sister who jumped right in, went along with their crazy. And my sister still goes along with their crazy talk. It's like she was completely brainwashed, believes all the shit that she heard, 100%. Like, she hasn't questioned it at all, which blows my mind. But, that's how she was raised, so she also was not kind to me, let's put it that way. And grew up continuing to be not kind to me and not kind to people in my family. And my sister I have nothing to do with. First of all, she won't take anybody's calls. She won't call us unless she's drunk. But the real problem that I have, my son is autistic, and I don't take any shit from anybody about my son, period. I am not allowing him to have the same kind of lifestyle that I had growing up, and I defend to the death. It's one of the proudest moments of my parenthood that my father's never hit my son. Now, my mother has. But my father never has, and, you know, that's something. But my sister, brilliant, you know, we're your classic American family. All the women are obsessed with their weight. When she got married the last time, she gained a ton of weight, like well over 100 pounds. And apparently she couldn't hack that because I was always supposed to be the fat one and she was supposed to be the skinny one. We grew up in that kind of dichotomy family. You know, if one had some ability, the other one couldn't. Again, abusive growing up, abusive household. So she couldn't stand the idea that she was clearly huge. And the last time she came to visit, she didn't want to see me because I guess she assumed I would rub it in her face. No. I might say, how's your health? But that's about it. I mean, come on. You know, I mean, it happens. Middle age spread, that's what it's called. So, when she came, because she was like, you know, an 8-hour flight away. When she came to visit, she refused to see me, and she refused to see my son. She wouldn't say why, really. At the time, what she said was, because my son is autistic, she was afraid that his bad behavior would rub off on her kids. So she did not want to have his influence on her kids, so she refused to see us. So as far as I'm concerned, no sister. I get asked about my siblings a lot, and I know a lot of avoidant people either are single children or they've got some sort of massive disconnect with their siblings. And I've never seen that like written anywhere or anything. I think it just happens to be that the people I've talked to, that happens quite a bit. So, yeah, no sibling. I would never, ever tell her what's going on or explain it to her. Never. What's the point? What is the point? I think that, you know, and a lot of people, a lot of therapists will say, you come from an abusive background, cut these people out of your life. In theory, that's beautiful. In reality, that can be really difficult, especially for an avoidant person when the only people they interact with are their family. Now, the reason that they say cut these people out is because if you're interacting with the people who have abused you, then you're going to be re-traumatized every time you see them. You know, my mother, one of the most annoying things that my mother does is she'll pick on me for stuff that I've done, doesn't think it's worthy of my time. But if I have not completed something that I was doing, let me tell you, she'll bring it up for decades. Hey, did you ever finish that thing? I'm like, that thing that you hated and said was a waste of my time? No, I haven't finished it. And will you shut up about it? But she wants to dig and dig and dig and basically make me feel worthless and inadequate, and I can't even finish some stupid dumb thing. Yeah. So anyway, in theory, getting these people in my life would be great. In reality, that's not going to happen. So the thing is, and then I have extended family that I see a couple times a year, maybe if I'm unfortunate. I try to avoid. And they don't know anything about this. So now, and I had a good friend actually. It was the funniest thing. I mean, I was just like, oh my God, this is like coming out, admitting that you have this diagnosis of a mental disorder, and oh my God. And I was like, I have this thing. This is what it is. Avoidant personality disorder. He said, yeah, what is that? And I described it, and he said, yeah, that's the way you are. Big deal. You know, I've known you for years, and yeah, that's so. That was like the most non-reaction reaction. I was like, oh God, okay, cool. Nothing. But my family, no, I wouldn't tell anybody unless I had to interact with them. So, basically, my advice on telling your family is try not to be emotional. It's almost impossible, but just the facts. Try not, when you are initially describing it, try not to be like personally invested. Try not to be accusatory. I mean, but the other thing is, don't expect these people to get it. They're never going to be able to see that they had any part of it whatsoever. Even when you say you need to have a trigger, which is, a sustained emotional abuse over time, it's going to like go right over their heads. They're not going to be able to, you're not going to get a light bulb of, oh, I did something to you. You're never going to hear that. If that's what your motivation is for explaining it, yeah, don't even bother. Don't even bother. Don't expect that there's going to be any change whatsoever. The thing with me was I felt so guilty about not being able to even, it's like I have my own standards, I have my family standards, and then I have like general society standard. And to not be able to meet the general society standard, I felt like I let the world down. And, that I was an embarrassment to the family, etc. So I had to tell them in order to sort of live with myself. It was an explanation where I could say, hey, this actually wasn't my fault. That was why I did it. I just felt like this, like, okay, listen, I'm not trying to be this way. I'm not a jerk. My mother kept saying I was a snob. No, I'm not a snob. I'm avoidant. There's a difference. And all her dumb stuff. Same with my father. I needed them to know that I wasn't just being a lazy jerk. There was this other thing going on, and that's why I told them. I didn't expect for them to understand. I didn't expect for them to see what they had to do with it. I didn't expect any sort of catharsis whatsoever. I just needed to get that off of my shoulders, to not, have this idea in my head that they think they're justified in putting me down that way. It's like, no, they're not. Let me give you the facts instead of this BS that you're like spewing at me. That's why I did it. And also look at your family and see who's bullying you. If somebody's bullying you in your family, one, they're not worthy of getting an explanation, and two, it doesn't matter. They're just going to use it to stab you with. So don't give them more, ammunition. Because people can be abusive and not be bullies, and people that are just bullies, like my sister, just forget them. Whatever. Let them say whatever they want to say and make a fool of themselves when they make fun of you to people who actually have a clue.